Hey there, and welcome to White Women Wake Up. I'm Karen.
And I'm Jonelle.
Each week, one of us brings a topic to the table, something we've been wrestling with, reading about, or noticing in our own lives.
And the other one reacts in real time. No scripts, no prep, just an honest conversation between a mother and a daughter, spanning generations about what it means to wake up as white women in a world shaped by bias and inherited patterns.
We don't always agree, and it's not always comfortable, but we show up anyway.
Yeah, we
Let's
do.
wake up.
Let's wake up.
Hey, Jonelle.
Hi, Karen.
How are you?
Good. How has your week been?
Good. But before we jump in,
Okay.
I would like us to talk about the book club.
Oh, yes, the book
Yay. We're just so excited to have Becky Hope lead us. She does a great job giving us good questions, summarizing the book, helping us understand why that book was banned. Anyways, the next book is Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult. And it's June 9th at 5:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah. And this is a great book, a fast read.
And we can't, I feel like you can't even really give it a good synopsis.
No.
Because, even when
for
we
listeners, for understanding.
Because I don't want to give it away.
Before I read this book, and before we even actually picked this book for the banned book club, Becky had never read it, and so she wanted it to include it, and it's a great book. But Karen basically gave me a very different synopsis, still relevant, but actually relevant to a surprise in the book.
Yeah.
And not what the actual book was about. So when I first started reading it, I was so confused by how she described it.
I know.
And so, but it's such a great book. I really encourage, even if you can't come to the book club, Mad Honey is an amazing book, again, to just build a different perspective.
And I also think it's a perfect book for white women because she walks around in a narrative that we understand, and she unfolds it in a way that we can really learn about identity and personhood. I just think it's really good. I think it was really smart.
She does a good job of answering questions that I think a lot of white women might have internally. In a space that's very shame-free. And like I said, we read this book a couple years ago, both for different book clubs of ours. And I think that was one of kind of our first conversations around this shame-free space for white women. Before we even started the podcast, but kind of talking, again, really praising her as an author. And she also is a co-author on this. And I feel so bad I don't remember the name of the co-author this time.
Speaking of shame-free,
but she does a great job.
It is a longer book. It's about 460 pages. So if you don't finish or you don't get it all done, don't feel bad because we'd still rather have that conversation. So come to book club.
Yeah.
It's a place for us to have really good dialogue.
I didn't even realize it was that long because I remember it being a fast read.
Yeah, it's a real fast read.
Yeah.
Okay.
So speaking of announcements, speaking of a shame-free space, I failed you listeners. I am so sorry. I failed on a promise and to deliver a survey in both the last two episodes. We talked about giving a survey out there. We want to build our community, putting in our show notes, and I completely forgot to do it. So bear with me. Give me grace. I am going to try and put it on my to-do list to remember to do it this week for Friday's episode.
We just kind of want to know what people are thinking and what they're interested in.
Yeah, we really do.
If it's not there, then you'll know Jonelle got busy.
I know. I'm so sorry.
You're doing a great job. The goal of this is just to have shame-free conversations about what it means to be a white woman showing up in a world where we have inherited bias. And we're just trying to figure that out.
But part of that is also building a system of trust.
Yeah.
And really delivering what I said I would deliver. So I feel bad. I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of pivoting some things for my
you're doing life. You're doing life. I wanted to talk a little bit about...
You keep interrupting me. I love you. But in the last two topics, you have jumped in mid-sentence to switch the topic.
Sorry.
And I wasn't even done.
Apologize.
Thank you. I appreciate the apologize. Okay. So just anyways, go on with what you were saying. I forgot what I was talking about.
Speaking
But
of
thank you for apologizing.
topics, I have just been doing so much reflection on the Mother's Day topic that we
I have
talked
a
about.
Great reflection too.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Well, mine is more generic, but I just have reflection. And I think, for me, it was a little bit of anger. It was anger because I'm just frustrated that so much of our histories have been rewritten in a way that we're supposed to feel soft and happy and jolly.
Yeah.
And it's just frustrating. Like, did they think that we couldn't handle the truth about why these mothers rose up and said, we need a day that we care about our children and we don't want to send our children off to war? And so the initial Mother's Day.
I don't think it's about handling the truth. I think it's they don't want us to know the truth.
Yeah.
It's about shutting women up.
Yeah.
It's not about.
Yeah.
It's about shutting women up. And then if you can distract us. This is what I've said time and time again about so many things. If you look at the civil rights movement, it also came along the second wave of feminism. And it's the same thing with George Floyd. When you look at Black Lives Matter, all of a sudden we had abortion issues. The goal of these, unfortunately, the patriarchal leaders is to divide us.
Yeah.
And so, but when you distract us, when you divide us, the problem goes away for them.
Yeah.
And so I think this is I don't think it's about that we weren't tough enough. I think it's about distracting us.
Yeah. And you're right, because we would have then gotten onto the subject of war and how we were frustrated that our sons in particular were being, utilized to shield things that we may not have agreed with. And we're seeing it again in this Iran war. So anyways, that's, I guess for me, I felt anger this week towards that.
Well, this is probably not going to help you then. I didn't feel anger. I felt curiosity. And I was looking into some more holidays. And what's interesting is Memorial Day was actually whitewashed as well. So Memorial Day, the holiday of Memorial Day, actually started on May 1st, 1865, when about 28 former enslaved Black Charlestonians, people from Charleston, South Carolina, organized what historians now believe is the first Memorial Day. This was less than a month after the Confederacy surrendered.
April 1865.
And so what they did on the site of the Washington Race Course, this was a former horse track that the Confederate Army had turned into an open-air prison, where about 260 Union soldiers died of disease exposures and were all dumped in mass graves. These 28 formerly enslaved men reburied every soldier with dignity. They built a fence around the gravesite, and they crafted an archway inscribed "Martyrs of the Racecourse." About 10,000 people gathered, including about 3,000 Black school children, led the procession, carrying armfuls of roses, singing John's Brown Body.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
And isn't that interesting that gosh, darn it all.
It was in 1868 that Union General John Logan took over this Memorial Day and declared a federal Memorial Day for everyone. And he got the credit until the late 1990s when a historian, David Blight, rediscovered the original Memorial Day in the Harvard archives.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Not only did we erase it, we buried it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where I led. I thought that was
good
really
for you.
interesting.
But isn't that what we're trying to do?
Celebrated Memorial Day weekend.
We're trying to be curious, right?
Yeah.
And so by not erasing our history, by looking deeper at it, yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it makes us feel bad that we did this. And yet, hopefully, by understanding these real things and how things really did exist, we'll grow from it. Good job, Jonelle.
You're welcome.
Wow. Now it makes me want to go see. Does that memorial still exist?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah. So
I would hope at some point
it was in Charleston.
Yeah, Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
At the original horse track there.
At the original horse track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Much better. I was just angry.
It's okay. We go through waves. I had that couple weeks where I was so mad and angry and still
Yeah, I
frustrated.
remember you felt, well, and this is the reality is, like, when we talk about our anger and our frustration, it's still nothing compared to the people that we have not examined our bias towards and treated wrongly towards. And so this is what we're working on. We're trying to pull our big girl panties up and be able to deal with these tough topics. Yeah. So, hey, your topic today, Jonelle.
My topic today. So I wanted to do a little bit of a refresh on a topic that we did last year. I was about to say in our first year of podcast, but that was just last year. It just feels like so long ago.
Yeah.
What I should say is I think this was like our third or fourth topic, so that's why it feels so long ago. But I want to revisit where we are with DEI today.
Yeah.
And the DEI rollbacks. We haven't talked about this in a while. I think part of this stems from is I recently found out that the initial person who was protesting, who led the protest against Target, let me find his name because I am
Was he the same person that did the protests against like Walmart and all of it? Was a small group of them, again, just like the banned books, a small group of them that really took these corporations to court and really put pressure on them.
Yeah. Yeah, and
But I am proud of our local Costco. They have not succumbed to the DEI.
They have not succumbed. Yeah.
But most universities have. We don't. We have a very
really
most universities, most places have a very slim DEI presence now because of the pressure put from the administration to get federal funding and so forth.
It's really.
It's interesting. While you're trying to look up that guy's name,
can I? Do you mind me talking? I had notes on this.
So
and
it's
not
interesting because one thing that I've been thinking about, it's awful not to be able to have these departments, not to be able to have women's studies, cultural studies, these types of topics, but they won't go away.
Yeah.
In fact, if anything, we've seen over and over again the amazing level of perseverance by groups of people that have been othered. And so, it's amazing that, when we look at the civil rights movement and the traction they gained, and then to have it rolled back again now. In fact, they say that what our rollbacks now are as bad as it was during the Reconstruction era. But we also, many of us know truth now.
Yeah.
And I don't think, hopefully there's been when I say I don't think, hopefully there's been a greater collective, especially in your generation, that is saying, wait a second. We have friends who are Black, Latino, queer. We don't want to go back. We're not going to go back to where white America is just the majority and where white America has erased our history. So I guess with that said, it may not be in places of formal departments, but it will be people, individuals, and people in communities and hopefully institutions that will relabel it. Maybe it won't be labeled critical race theory, but we'll relabel it so that these concepts can still be taught.
Yeah.
So we can still learn about histories. These things are not going away. What we know now, like what you were able to look up about Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And we know to do this research, that information is out there. I suppose what we need to do as white people and white women in particular is to keep our curiosity levels going. I think one of the things that you said that was interesting to me was, think of ourselves as travelers and we want that curious space.
Yeah.
Okay, you're still looking for the guys.
No, I'm not.
Sorry.
I've been listening to you.
Okay, go for it.
No, so this is a little delayed, and I don't know if anyone's aware, but so it was Dr. Jamal Bryant, who is a reverend, a Baptist reverend, and he was the one who started with over a 3,000 plus person pledge to boycott Target until Target.
He was a boycotter. He wasn't the one that put the pressure on Target.
No.
I thought you were looking at we talked about it in an earlier episode. There was a small group of white men in particular that put the pressure on, and I don't know if it came from people like with the Heritage Foundation or Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 that put the pressure on.
Well, I think it was a backlash of when people started boycotting Target because
got it.
Then white people got up and was like, well, we're gonna support Target for this. Yeah. Anyways, Dr. Jamal Bryant, I wanted to find his last name. I knew it was Dr. Jamal. So Dr. Jamal Bryant is known as the one who started the boycott against Target. And he officially ended the boycott in March of this year after the CEO of Target stepped down, and then the company brought back its Black business spending pledge. And so good. I haven't talked about this as much because I think there's still some dialect still some conversation that I haven't sussed out in my own mind of like, what does that still mean for white people in their engagement with Target and stuff? Because even though this is over, like it's still the power of it. And so there's these conversations of some people are saying that white people still should not shop Target. There's other conversations, which I lean a little bit more towards, is if you shop Target, shop the Black brands that are now being put back into Target. Because that was a big portion that this pledge or this ban even happened. It was because Target not only rolled back on DEI, but they basically cut all of the diverse vendors.
Yeah, and also probably, I would assume, the kind of language that would encourage buyers to look for minority businesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I have not necessarily gone back to Target, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't go and support Black businesses if I saw things that I was interested in, I guess. I don't know.
Do you think they're just virtue signaling?
Well, this is kind of my point of like, exactly. This is my point, and I haven't shopped at Target for almost 2 years now. And so it's been an interesting journey, like in my own personal experience. And so, yeah, anyways, but that is what kind of sparked my like, okay, we haven't done a reconnect on DEI. The last time we talked about the DEI rollbacks was at the very beginning of this and with speculations of the impacts, but we haven't circled back more than about 2 years later to talk about the actual results of what we're seeing. And so that's kind of what I wanted to focus.
So did you find good data? Great.
I did.
Yeah.
I found some really interesting data.
So wait, can I say one thing before you jump into the data? I think what's fascinating is when we don't pay attention to a problem, we think the problem goes away. And it's so human nature. So for example, again, what I'm talking about, many universities that I know of like have rolled back their DEI efforts. And so it becomes this space where you get comfortable and you're no longer.
Tell me about what you mean by that.
Well, in other words,
with the rollback, or you
you get comfortable not comfortable in the sense that, wait, how do I frame this in a way that makes sense? So in other words, initially, when they were doing the rollbacks of DEI, which was, probably we were seeing that in 2024, early 2025. So now a good year and a half ago. And we were seeing the pressure. And initially, many people, especially at the university levels that I'm aware of, were getting very upset to have this forced engagement that we felt like we had women's studies programs, we had cultural studies programs, and many of those have been now curtailed and asked to stop.
Or we look at the Doge efforts to cut all the funding.
Yes, asked to stop. And so that was a hot topic.
Yeah.
Right? So people are talking about it.
Yeah.
People aren't talking about it much anymore. And this is what I mean about getting comfortable. So you like start going into like teaching what you teach or doing what you do or doing
I don't know
your
if it's getting comfortable. It's just getting
complacent.
Normalized. Complacent and
would
normalized.
Be the word. Yeah.
That's okay, good. I'm happy you re-explained that because what do you mean we're comfortable?
Yeah,
with
not
DEI?
comfortable, complacent.
We're complacent. Yeah. It's just normalized.
Yeah, which is very scary because we want to keep ourselves aware of how we are not creating places of full narratives, right?
This is why when I have updated information, why on like the immigration deportation, I'm sharing it because I think that is a topic that is still being normalized for us. We're getting complacent around it. And also I think, ICE is getting much more quiet about they're figuring out that like how to avoid the social media narrative. And so that's why
we know that they're still deporting people.
And so that's why, because I don't want it to be complacent.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this is where some of the DEI. So for context of where we were up to 2024. So in 2015, this is right before DEI efforts started happening. C-suite spots, women made up 17% of C-suite spots. By 2024, they made up 29%.
Yeah, which is huge.
So that's like a 12 huge difference.
Not that women are still like at 50-50.
Well, I mean, it's still pathetic.
It's still pathetic, but like,
that shows
think about you had 12% more of women's voices at the table.
Yeah.
Now,
and that also shows the jump.
And you're just talking women. You're not even talking about minority. No, I'm
talking about just women in general.
Yeah.
So of women of color only made up 7% of those spots.
Yeah.
So anyways, then the same thing. So formal sponsorships of programs for women existed at about 24% of major Fortune 500 companies in 2024. Recruiting programs focused 48% of women, or 48% of Fortune 500 companies focused on specific female recruiting programs in 2022. Internship programs for women were about 24%. So again, these were all really important things between 2022 and 2024. Now in 2025, after 10 years of climbing, 2025 was the first year that we went from a leadership of 29% and we lost down to, I think, 25%. So even within a year, we were down. Managers' promotions reversed. Where like more and every quarter they keep sliding.
Yeah.
Here is it. The sponsorship programs. Sponsorship programs for women went down to 16%.
From what was it? 48?
I think it was 48 initially to 16%. Recruiting for women got cut, like to focus specifically, got almost cut from
people became corporations and institutions became very worried that they were going to lose any kind of federal funding or federal advocacy. Yeah.
Support for gender diversity was at 88% for companies across the U.S. It went down to 67% in 2025.
And this is 1 year.
Yeah.
One of the things it's interesting for me as we've done now our podcast for, a year and a half or whatever, is I didn't realize how important institutional support mattered for people, for persons, women, for anyone who is considered, I hate the word weaker because we're not weaker, but
I
considered.
I could see hating the word weaker because it's an inaccurate word.
So anyone who's considered non-dominant or non-majority. So obviously white men are the dominant majority.
Yeah.
So
oppressed.
Oppressed. So it like the thing is, it's easy to say if you're in a general population or a population that favors probably patriarchal values, it's easy to say, well, pick up your bootstraps. Everyone could do it. We all have, this is America. Everyone has opportunities. And yet, you're even showing us that we needed those supports to help open up pathways for our success.
Yeah.
And we're not just we're not talking about white women. We are talking about people that are disabled, people that are older, people that are dealing with sexual identities.
But you're bringing up a really interesting point because white women as a whole, as we know, often are uplift the patriarchal, the white norms. And the reason we do this is so they say same thing in the corporate office. We're more likely to have the toxic positivity mentality. They actually say this is because, so the white women are the number one benefiter of DEI. Most white women often didn't realize that their gains were supported by DEI because their DEI is hidden in the corporate world under leadership development.
Yeah.
High potential programs where race and gender aren't necessarily applied outside, but yet it is geared towards women. Yeah. And so the white women rarely received the framing and the understanding that they were benefiting from DEI programs. And so this is why a lot of them were voted against DEI programs because they thought that was for women of color.
Well, they didn't think it was needed anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jonelle, it's so interesting because some of the things, and I don't know what episode or what episode this was, but I have learned, and what you're talking about, white women holding up the patriarchal values, right? And so what is a pattern is that white men necessarily did not embody the things that we've learned about diversity, anti-bias training. They didn't embody them. They asked white women or Black men or Black women or Latino women to hold up the diversity flag without ever embodying it. Most white men were not leading diversity efforts. So they never had to really own what it means or what they didn't have to own or think about or learn the ways that we've all spent time learning. And so the minute these things can be cut, there's not a personal investment towards them.
It's interesting you say this. So there is
embodiment matters.
There's a new movie out on Netflix, and now I haven't seen it, and I'm awful. I don't even remember the name about it. But there's a lot of discourse online because this movie was supposed to be like this year's Barbie movie because it essentially is a guy who wakes up in a world where women are leaders. And he's basically now treated like how women are. He needs to become prettier to get promoted. He keeps getting interrupted. And what a lot of women are saying is you can see that this movie was still clearly directed by a man.
Yeah.
Because the difference between that and the Barbie movie showed...
Oh, it had so many subtleties. It was so great.
No, but not even that. The Barbie movie showed that when women are in leadership, they don't treat men, like they don't treat other people as oppressor.
What you should say is women who have owned matriarchal values.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of
women
us.
who own matriarchal
and
values.
I almost
But anyways, this is my point in your thing. The reason why then men, like what I'm talking about here when you're talking about they don't embody the DEI programs is because, again, when they're thinking about it, they are still thinking in the lens of them. Again, this movie.
The colonial mindset.
They're thinking in the lens of if men and women switch power structures, women would do the same things to men, men do to women. And that's not true at all. And so I just think it's
not true because a lot of women, so it's interesting, as we're talking, I would almost, no, it's not true because women, if they've been empowered by a patriarchal system, they're going to assimilate that system.
You're missing my point of this movie. Okay. Men's assumption are that in a neutral world where patriarchy never existed and women now have power, their version of power would still look like patriarchy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so that's why these men still can't understand, like, embrace and understand DEI.
Well, this is why.
It's full effect.
But haven't we learned this is why the patriarch cannot even understand other cultures' governmental values. Like if you look at Indigenous persons' governmental values, it was much more cooperative.
Yes.
It would take on more matriarchal values than it did patriarchal. So it's fascinating to me. Like as you're talking, part of me keeps thinking, oh, if I were in a test right now, or if I were writing a paper, I feel like I'm finally understanding how some of these systems are working.
Yeah.
So, for example, our dominant space of government or leadership is dictated by the colonial mindset or patriarchal values, which is competition, which is making money, which has a scarcity mentality. All that above. That's the patriarchal values. It doesn't mean it's a white man's value, but it's a patriarchal value. Women, in particular white women, when we were brought to the table, we were asked to assimilate these values.
Totally.
And so when we assimilated these values, and I totally see that in the 80s, I assimilated a white male or a patriarchal value. But when we were asked to assimilate these values, we thought, good for us. Why can't other people take on these values? When in fact, what they were doing was not that they weren't taking it on, they were questioning it. These values are not holistic and they're not healthy for all people.
This is the same circular conversation my generation has had with your generation about so many things.
Yeah.
Your generation is so much of the assimilation generation. Yeah. Like, oh, well, in my day, I had it worse. But our generation is like, yeah, but then so don't you want to fight? But our generation has it better. Like it's still this martyr mindset of like, well, we had to work and it sucked for us.
Yeah.
And then, but our mentality
I think it's going
like,
back to the root cause because they don't even know what they're assimilating to. So let me give you.
I understand that, but it's also a mentality of the generation.
Yeah.
I think it's a generation a little bit of victimhood of that.
Well, I can imagine it's a generation of victimhood because here let's play role play a little bit. So here, white women have made it to the table. Okay, just hear me out.
It's the same
But the
argument.
table still needs to be
Your generation set back feminism for all
I agree.
women. Okay.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, okay, so
I'm saying you set back feminism by then also not wanting to push it forward for other people because you felt like you worked hard and they need to work just as hard.
But I think that they didn't even know that they were being screwed. That's the point I'm trying to get to.
But we're talking two different points. I agree with you. I'm saying, and then now, whether they realize they were screwed or not, doesn't matter. It's still this mentality of they're gatekeeping. Our generation is not about gatekeeping.
I agree, but I don't even think they know they're gatekeeping is the point I'm trying to make, is I think they thought, or I think, I'll own it for myself, I'm at the table now. I'm at the corporate table. But instead of me coming to the table with my matriarchal values, which is non-competition, which is collaborative, which is a shared value system, I've assimilated patriarchal values. But because I'm at the table, there's an assumption that my male counterparts are learning from me. And they haven't learned anything from me. They've not embodied any of my systems because I've been forced to embody theirs. So then I'm just carrying on this pattern. Like I've been forced to assimilate. Everyone's been forced to assimilate to this patriarchal colonial mindset. Yeah. And then instead of the persons that are learning from these other value systems, they just say, no, everyone's got to be like us.
Well, I'm glad you could share that with your generation. My generation knows that about you.
But I don't think my generation is even aware of it.
But that's what I'm trying to say is
I don't think
we're aware of it.
But do you think your generation... Okay, I think you're letting your generation off the hook. Your generation is a trad wife generation.
That's actually younger than my gen. That's Gen Z.
Okay.
Gen Z trad wife.
But do you think every woman, every white woman in particular...
No.
I really think whether you like Kristi Noem or not, or Pam Bondi, most likely you didn't, but I think they are a perfect example of what we're talking about. They assimilated to the patriarchal colonial mindset. They thought they could play the game. That government...
I don't think they're my generation.
Well, yeah.
They're not. They're not millennials.
They're not millennials. But anyways, this is
doesn't make your point. Literally.
Well, my point is there are plenty of women. I'm not saying,
every generation has a mix of people. I'm just talking about in general. Yeah. That is the boomer kind of mentality around feminism and getting a seat at the table.
Okay. So now I want to step back. Okay. I have centered this conversation on white women.
Yeah, you have.
I want to go back, and you are talking about DEI and DEI.
We're way over today. We completely derailed. We're way over. I think where I want to end us, the statistic that I want to end us on is, and maybe we can sum up the journey, everyone, of where we went today. We started because we wanted you an update of where the DEI rollbacks have affected. They affected all women. I think white women have been very surprised by how much they've affected them.
Yes.
Because we were the number one beneficiaries of it. That being said, even though it's drastically affected us because we benefited the most, the rollbacks have still disproportionately affected Black women.
Yeah.
Specifically Black women.
Yeah.
Here's a study. In between February and July of 2025, white women gained 142,000 jobs. Latina women gained 176,000 jobs. Black women lost 319,000 jobs. So put that in perspective here. When we're talking about this, the DEI rollbacks affect everyone, but they really disproportionately affect and honestly just demolish Black women.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And so I just want us to really sit with that of where we feel the pain in this, where we see the results in this. Put your shoes in a Black career woman.
Yeah.
And now for context, Black women have the third highest amount of degrees among all races of women.
Wow.
They have more degrees than Black men by a handful. They have more degrees than white men by a handful. So they are an incredibly educated and overqualified demographic. And yet, while we gain jobs, they lost almost twice as many of those jobs during these rollbacks.
Wow.
So, leaving on a positive.
Waking up. No. We need to wake up. We need to consider. We need to think, and we need to be wise to what our actions do to each other.
And I think where this is really good and where I've gotten the most feedback from some of our listeners are around topics that we can all understand, that they can empathize with because they affect them. And then also to step outside of themselves to see how these same topics are affecting other women of color.
Yeah.
And stuff. So I hope everyone
well, maybe one of the things here, it's interesting. I was blaming the white male CEO for not embodying DEI principles.
It's white women.
Guess what?
This is what I'm trying
It's our job to wake up.
This is what I've been trying to say for the last 10 minutes.
It's our job to wake up and really help our sisters in this world.
We can't keep blaming these white men. I mean, these white men have done so much destruction. We can be annoyed, we can be frustrated, but as white women, we still uphold their systems.
Yeah.
And we are the
And when we talk about systems, I am really talking about colonial mindset and patriarchal values. We're not talking about people, we're talking about systems. Systems that shape the way that we move and think in the world. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Wow.
Sorry we went a little bit
Sorry
over.
I centered white women again.
You know what? It happens. Everyone, this is why we're here.
That's why white women need to wake up.
White women, and we need to wake up.
Wake up.
So anyways, thank you so much for joining us on White Women Wake Up. We hope today's conversation sparked something in you, whether it's reflection, a new question, or a deeper commitment to showing up with empathy and accountability. If you found this episode meaningful, please subscribe, leave a review, and definitely share it with someone who needs to hear it. I think we should start another campaign, share it with 3 people who need to hear it. Yeah. That worked really well last time when we did this in the fall.
My friend is going to Europe and she's downloading a bunch of our episodes to listen to.
Share it to everyone across Europe. We do have a couple European listeners and I love it. You can also connect with us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or Substack, or at whitewomenwakeup.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts and keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, be open, and let's keep waking up. I also have a quick playback on today's sources. The C-suite escalator numbers and the program cut data came from the McKinsey study and Lean In Women's in the Workplace reports, the 2024 10th anniversary edition, and the 2025 11th year follow-up. The 142,000 jobs gained by white women and the 319,000 jobs lost by Black women. This was reported by a Black Wall Street Times. The Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies State of the Dream 2026 named it a Black Recession. The 33% of federal layoff figure is from the Institute of Women's Policy Research. And I think that's, there we go. Memorial Day, sorry. And the Memorial Day in Charleston story comes from the historian David Blight's recovery of the 1865 ceremony. So thank you again for listening, and there will be a follow-up on our Substack. Keep waking up. Bye.
Bye.